Hello, let's have a look at writing our first program. We're going to be writing a program in R, but you've also downloaded RStudio. So how do these two things relate? Well, R is the programming language, the code that's going to be doing all the calculations for us. We're going to be writing R code, and RStudio is a really nice way to interface with R. If we weren't using RStudio, we'd only really see a bunch of text. Like this. RStudio is going to allow us to preview graphs. It's going to allow us to look at error message. It's going to give us hints and tips about how to improve our code. It's going to allow us to view and kind of manipulate the objects that we create and so on. So RStudio is a really nice way to interface with the R programming language. So when you first load up R, it appears a bit like this. We could write a program in the console on the left. So I could say 2 plus 2, or 2 plus 3, equals 5. I could say 2 times 3, and that's actually equals 6. And notice here I'm using the star rather than the X. But that's not how we want to use R. We want to use R by creating a script file that we can save, we can move things around, we can come back to later, we can reuse code, we maybe sending it to people that we know to have a look at and feedback. So we need to go and create a new R script. And to do this, we're going to hit the green plus icon and click on R script. So now we have an R script up here. We've got the console down here where we're going to get error messages and outputs. We've got our plots, packages and files, which we can start to install new things if we need them. We can start to preview the ggplots that we have, and our environment window up here, which is going to store any objects and variables that we might have. So to write our first program, I'm going to say my underscore name is Peter. Now, what's going on here? Well, I want to create a new object called my name. I want to push this string Peter. It's a string because we have a speech marker at the front and the end of it, and it's turned green. That's RStudio helping us out there. And this arrow is going to tell us to push this value into my name. So if I want to go and see this working, I select this and I go click on Run. And it says my name equals Peter. Now, imagine my name was Paul. I can just change that there. Again, I select it. I could hit the run button, but I can also do Control Enter or Command and Enter if you're on a Mac. And I run that now, and you can see the value has changed over here. I'm now Paul. So nothing much has happened at the bottom other than telling us which code it's run. So I can actually print out the value of my name. And if I select that, Control Enter or Command Enter to run it, it says Paul. My name's still Paul. If I go and change this to Peter, and I run line 5 again, so I just select line 5 on its own, I click Command Enter or Control Enter or just run, you see it still thinks I'm Paul because I haven't run this line yet. This is a bit unusual. Other programming languages, you have to run the whole file at once. RStudio allows us to run run lines individually. So I'm going to select lines 3, 4 and 5 all at the same time. So first of all, it's going to set it back to Peter. It's then going to print my name. Control Enter. It's now printing out Peter, and you can see it's changed over here as well. So that's very simply how to get your first program going. I'm going to go and create another object. I'm going to call this my age, and I'm going to assign this a value which isn't true. So I'll leave it. I'm going to say 21. So I select that line, I go Control Enter, and it says there's an error here. There's an error here because if we're making an object name or a variable name, you may think about it if you've used other programming languages, we need to have it as one word. So we either use an underscore or we can kind of concatenate them together and call it my age with a capital letter in the middle, or no capital letter. It's really up to you, but there are rules about how you can go and create these object names. So I'm just going to leave it with an underscore. I'm just going to show you some of the rules. So some of the rules for this are, well, we need to have things named something sensible. I mean, RStudio is not really going to help you with that, but for your own sake, try and name them sensibly. They are case sensitive as well. So let's have a look at that. If I go here and I try and print my name with a capital N, and I select that line, go to run, it doesn't know what my name is, because there's a capital N here when it should be a lowercase n. We call it case sensitive. It's very particular about capital letters. So we go run that again, that's fine. What else have we got? Well, we can't have spaces, we've just seen that one. You can't start a name with a number, but you can end it with a number. So if I wanted to have, this is the first of my ages, I go run that, it doesn't like it. But if I go and put a 1 on the end, my age 1, it's happy. And actually it creates my age 1 over here. So that's all right to have a number at the end or a part of it, but not at the front. And you can have certain sorts of punctuation. You can have an underscore or a full stop. We've seen the underscore, but you cannot have exclamation marks, for example. So if I go and say my age, shockingly, is 21, exclamation mark on the end, or even, let's say, a question mark, because we're not quite sure, I try and run that. It doesn't like it because it's got the question mark on the end. So let's go put that back to 1. So the other things that you should really do is just stick to a convention. You can see here I'm using an underscore. I generally use underscores. Other people use other things, but if I'm going to have an underscore, I need to make sure all of my variables follow the same convention. You don't have to, but it's just going to make your code easier to read. Okay, so far so good. We've got a piece of code which has got my name and my age. Now I want to go and do a calculation. So I'm going to say age in months. And my age in months is equal to 21 times 12. So 12, there we go. Notice these are numbers, so I don't need to have the speech marks like I did for my string up there. And the times is a star rather than an X. So if I go and run that, age in months 21 by 12, I create a new object up here, age in months 252. That's pretty good. Now, if I go and change my age and say actually I'm 22, go run that again, nothing's changed up here, because it's not changed down here. So I'm going to have my age 1 times 12, age in months, and I go run it again. Now it's updated itself. I have to make sure that I keep running these lines again. So if I go to change to 23, well, it still hasn't updated. So what I should do is I should select, generally try and select a lot of code to kind of check that everything works. If you're dealing with little snippets of code, that's fine, but you should try and select maybe the whole program, Control Enter. Let's see what happens now. Everything's been updated now because it's run through the whole program at once. Okay, so far so good. If I wanted to, let's say, try and understand this a bit better when I come back to it, I've just covered a lot of material. So what I can do is I can pop here, I can use up the hash symbol, and I can write a comment. This is a comment. And then I can say down here to assign a variable a string value, use the arrow and speech marks. Okay, so hopefully if I look at this again, I'll start to understand what that's doing. Now, what's going to happen when I run these lines? So let's select all the code again, click on run. You can see up here, no new objects have been created by lines 2, 3, and 4. And comments just basically miss things out. They skip them out. It's there for you to try and understand the code when you come back to it. So what if I were to go back and try and call myself Paul, and I put a comment in front of it, and I go and run the whole thing again? Well, you can see it still thinks I'm Peter because that line's got a comment on the front of it. So I can just snip that off now, run that again, and you can see my name's changed back to Paul. Okay, so now you've got a task to do. If you look at the website, there'll be a task for you to try and learn a little bit more about the use of comments, the use of variable names, and writing your first program.